Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Boomer Broads. Today's topic is actually one that's been on everybody's mind these days, and every national network show, etc. The Today Show, I think, has done it 3 or 4 times, which is that Tiger Mom phenom, and what is the right or wrong way to raise your kids, and is there such a thing?
Really touched a chord, didn't
Oh
it?
my God. I am not a mom. I was raised, despite what some of you may think. I was not hatched. I was raised by a mother.
Her unborn children really are kind of grateful. Because
No!
Wait till you hear what she's about to say.
No. No, actually, I have watched Anne-Marie raise her kids, 2 fantastic kids, Samantha and Adam. And if asked, I probably would have said, as so many people, like to have opinions of other people when they necessarily shouldn't. You weren't strict enough. You weren't strict enough with your kids, which you've heard me say often, I think, over the many years.
And I actually...
You've proven me wrong, but I used to say you were not strict enough with your kids.
I actually agree with you.
Really? Can we stop right now? Because this might be a first and last time.
I honestly think that I wasn't. But there's no roadmap for parenting. So you just sort of do the best you can. And things were complicated by the fact that I was alone.
Yep.
That I was a single mom.
Yep.
So that
you did the best you could.
Yeah, I did the
best you could. And we just had a quick pre-discussion before we came on the air about is it really the child rearing aptitude of the mom that shapes a child that much? You look at a Scott Brown who had child rearing that we've since discovered was not so great, abusive step parents, a mom who was in absentia. So he did not have the quintessential great child rearing experience, but boy, he turned out to be a pretty great guy. So how much of an impact? You may not have been a strict child rearing specialist, but your kids are fantastic. They're successful, they're bright, they're social. I hate to say this because they're going to throw this back at me. You think I'm really good? But I do feel that way. And so it just goes to show. And then there are kids who are brought up by a strict parent who,
Like Amy Chow's,
and didn't turn out that great.
Or, well, no, her children are.
No, I'm not saying hers, but there are kids who are brought up very strict, with a strict hand, and they don't necessarily end up to be great citizens, great people.
That's a very good question, and I think we should put some of these questions to my daughter, which we did, and I have the advantage of knowing what she said, and she was kind enough to take a few minutes before she left for work today to spend some time talking to us about the whole phenomenon of tiger parenting. Here you go. Well, this is very exciting. I don't get to talk to my daughter very often, so to do it like this is kind of exciting. And actually, it's an interesting subject. And I should tell our audience that it's also one that we have not rehearsed. We barely even have spoken in the last couple of weeks. And we've not spoken about this subject, and I find it fascinating. Tiger moms. I should start by saying I was definitely, at least in my opinion, not a tiger mom. What do you think?
Certainly not a tiger mom.
Not a tiger mom.
Certainly not.
But also, I think it's an interesting subject, and I think that she's done a remarkable job of provoking dialogue and conversation.
Looking back, their having high expectations for me, coupled with love, was the greatest gift they could give me.
I'm fascinated by the whole concept of tiger momism, tiger parenting, and I actually support it and think it's a great idea. But I also would like to hear, first of all, your perspective, and then I want to talk about how being a tiger mom might have changed things for my child rearing, or of my child rearing. So, first of all, what do you think of tiger parenting in general?
Well, so not having read the book, but only having read the excerpts from the book, I think the focus on the American public has been sort of skewed. I think it's been focused on how strict she was, but I think if you read her accounts, it's actually about how she sat with her child through all of this stuff. And so part of it, regardless of whether you're strict or whether you're lenient or whatever your style is, it's about that commitment to your child. And that is something that she demonstrated. I mean, even in the horrific accounts that she has about, calling her daughters names, it's about being with them no matter how upset they got. no matter how much they threw a fit. She was there. Yes, she was there carrying their dollhouse to the car, but she was there with them. And that makes a difference. And that allows a child to then feel supported, whether it's, because you're being pushed so hard, or whether they were supported and they were allowed to then come back and say, I'm going to work really hard. I'm going to accomplish this. You had faith in me, and you have the relationship, and it's about the relationship that's so important.
And they clearly trusted her and trusted her as a mom.
Absolutely.
Enough so that her second daughter, Lulu, trusted her enough to rebel against that type, the restrictions. Well, so
and knew through the rebellion that her mom still was going to love her, and that's the key to it. To know that you are loved no matter what is the key to good child rearing, whether it's or to good child development, is whether it, stylistic is stylistic, but it's that fundamental feeling of being loved that matters.
Well, you certainly tested, that's for sure. We'll go back. We'll go back over that in a second. But would you have preferred Tiger parenting, Tiger mom? I was a single mom, so I think most of our audience knows that by now. With two, wonderful children. Samantha was much more of a challenge and certainly tested the limits, of my parenting in a variety of ways. From my daughter's perspective, should I have been tougher? Should I have been stricter? Would it have made a difference?
There's an aspect, and I admire reading Amy Chow's accounts, because she really would not let her daughters give up. And I can tell you that one thing that I regret from growing up is not sticking with things when they were unpleasant. And it's an easy thing to do when you're in middle school or high school, and you're not the best musician and you're not the best athlete, and it's easy to be like, well, forget it. And so in that case, I really admire that.
It didn't turn out badly.
No.
No,
I've stuck with, I got a couple masters. I've done stuff.
Seriously. I mean, you're not, and Adam as well, you're not slouches, you're not concert musicians, but I don't know that Amy Chow's children are going to be concert musicians, despite her best efforts to make them learn the piano, or make them learn this one piece that she had to practice for, hours on end.
And the one thing, that is not taken into account in what I've read about her, first of all, her daughters are 18 and 15. So while, yes,
the jury's still out a little, right?
In line, the jury's still out on exactly where their direction is. But, the one thing that she doesn't talk about, yes, they can play music, and yes, they can do their math problems, but I actually put a pretty high emphasis on being socially responsible, on being, participating in democracy, and all those things that I think make a good society of individuals. I put a high emphasis on that, and it's something that I got by, going voting with you and those type of activities.
Don't make me cry now. Don't make me cry.
Yeah. I got to go vote. It's voting in Chicago today.
Oh, that's
so I have
right. The big vote today. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah,
tell me that. You mentioned that once, that it was nice to have been brought to the voting booth every single election, and every single one. As the daughter of immigrants, I thought it was really important.
Absolutely. And it's made quite an impact on both Adam, my brother, and I, in that we both now take our social responsibility very seriously. Adam as a journalist, and me as a policy advocate, that we take our responsibility not only to achieve in ourselves, but to be citizens very, very seriously. And that's something you don't see in that account. And I would argue that, while I may or may not be a concert, pianist that's going to play Carnegie Hall and make $1 million at that, hopefully I'm also, and Adam is also, making difference in other people's lives, which are something you don't see much of an emphasis in her accounts.
Yeah, and you wonder whether the sternness, the strictness that she showed in various aspects of child rearing, for example, music and other things, and not letting her children socialize and all of that, whether that was aimed at building a better child or a better relationship or a better parent. I mean, it's hard to tell. And I
Yeah.
thought that was where my disconnect came with her, was what was the point?
Yeah. Yeah. And she clearly had ambitions, and I mean, you can see that she felt that what she was doing is building discipline, building, life practices. But I would argue that one of the reasons we send children to preschool is not just to have some place to go, but to get that socialization, and how important it is to be able to interact with other people and to be, as one account said, emotionally intelligent. And it's true. And that's not something you can get in a parent-child relationship. That's something you really need those social interactions for: the sleepovers, the birthday parties, the school plays, whatever it is. Those are what you need it for.
Of course, every teenager looks at their mother and says, "Don't you trust me?" And of course, you want the answer to be yes, but your job is not to. And it's not about trust, it's about setting limits and parameters. And I thought, in my experiences with you and your rebellion through those middle years, I learned a lot that I did not repeat with my son, with Adam, who's 3.5 years younger than you. And I thought that's kind of interesting. So maybe I could have been more of a tiger mom. Maybe I should have been more of a tiger mom. Go ahead.
But it starts at, I mean, it's a parenting style that you have to be with from birth. It can't, I mean, it really, because as I said, it's about the expectations, and her children are 15 now. So, now is the time where they may be rebelling, and maybe they're not, but there's actually a lot to be said for that rebellion, for pushing those limits, for testing where the boundaries are, and for making mistakes, and feeling supported in it, and feeling like, it doesn't always have to be perfect to be useful and meaningful. And it's not always about going the safe route or going the accepted route, but going the route that means something.
Say
and
less,
that's what
less traveled, but you certainly did do that. Well, you did. I mean, you did, and I think in a very meaningful way, and in a way, sort of almost on your own, and with a lot of mentors, in addition to parents, both of whom loved you, whether they were together or not. And I don't think there was ever a doubt that you were loved, for sure. But you did feel your way, and there were some bumps in the road. But whether that could have been avoided by stricter parenting or not, I know it's hindsight, but
I think that, by having the room to make mistakes as a teenager and push boundaries, it allowed me the experiences that gave me comfort when, for example, when I was in college and I wanted to go to India and they told me no. And it would have been very easy for me to just say, okay, and go to Paris with the rest of my class and sit in a class with all Americans and perfect my French and be really good at that. But what I really wanted to do was go to India, and I really wanted to work with orphans, and I really wanted to see that perspective of it. And it took a year and a half of fighting them. And I don't know if I had always had my course laid out for me, whether I would have done that, whether I really would have pushed that. And it was defining for me. I mean, it really, both that and then, graduating from college and moving to Chicago, where I knew no one. I had no job, no nothing, and really being willing to make that mistake if it was a mistake.
And you feel that you learned that through your childhood, or through.
I learned the comfort to push boundaries and to not take that safe route through having the flexibility to do that. Absolutely.
God bless you, darling. Seriously, I mean it. I mean it. And whether because your mother still does that and gets a lot of pushback all the time. I wanted to say to my audience, isn't she beautiful? Thank you very much. Love you very much, honey. Go and vote. And thank you for taking the time and the thought to give us your feedback on what we think is kind of an interesting subject.
And thanks for being my mom. And And honestly, thanks for not being a tiger mom.
Okay, I guess, I think. Love you, honey. Have a great day.
Love you.
Okay, talk to
Have
you
a good
later.
day.
Bye, honey.
All right. Bye.
Interesting. She's off to vote because today's
Oh
the big
yes,
election
today's
in
the big
Chicago.
election in Chicago.
Really torn about what to do.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm
she loves
surprised.
Rahm, but
Yeah.
she thinks he's too Republican.
Republican?
I know, isn't that interesting?
Well, she could teach me a thing or
Yes,
two.
she's
as usual.
both of my children could teach both of us a thing or a few.
They read The
more than a thing or
Economist,
two, right?
and we read People magazine. It's not good.
Seriously.
Well, that was great.
Yeah, very interesting, and I think I would love to hear from our fans.
Absolutely.
Really, let us know what you think. Now that's your child, by the way. Very well behaved.
Unconditional love, baby. That's all I ask. Unconditional love.
And licks your face, which my kids have, thank God, never done. Well, let us know what you think about the whole tiger mom phenomenon. I think it's very interesting. And also the question that Janet raised in the beginning of the show, and that is, to what extent does parenting really make a difference? I mean, it's kind of an interesting question.
I think love makes a difference, but I don't know if being strict or not so strict or all those things really make that much difference.
Well, as I said to my daughter, I learned a lot from her. And I think I really instituted two separate, somewhat separate, different parenting styles with both children, because what I learned from Samantha was that I needed to set better limits. And Adam, therefore, did have some better limits. And they're both phenomenal kids, and I'm very blessed and very grateful. And thanks to Sam for doing it. And let us know what you think. Seriously, let us know what you think. We'd be very interested in having you weigh in on this
Absolutely.
subject.
Till next week.